I think really we need to start with the Giants and some of the things that happened with them yesterday. And the fact that they ran a quarterback sneak on successive plays and it was 3rd and 9 basically tells me two things. One, that the head coach is telling the owner, I got crappy players, so it ain't me. And number two, he's trying to keep the game as tight as he possibly can in terms of the final score because he doesn't want to risk another pick six by Jake Fromm inside, deep inside their own zone. And that play right there tells you all you need to know about the dysfunction that is the New York Giants. And I would think that Joe Judge was trying to do everything he possibly could to make sure that this wasn't like a 35-3 game. And like as we were talking about last week, what would we come in here feeling like if that were going to be the case? I didn't think there was anything that they could have done that could have made it any worse, but successive quarterback sneaks inside your 5-yard line. I have never seen anything like that. I have never seen a quarterback sneak on a 3rd and 9.
Well,
in the normal body of the game, in a normal situation where you could have ran a draw play.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only time I've ever seen that is if you're on, like, you're inside the 1. Or you're at the 1-yard line, and you need to create a little bit of room for your punter because things are getting dicey.
Nobody had a problem with the 2nd down call.
Right, that's fine. But you're talking about now, I mean, you're right there, right inside the 5. It's a 3rd and 9. Never have I seen that when you've created 5 yards of space.
So now that gives everybody a talking point for the game. And it gives everybody a narrative for the entire Giants season that the head coach basically said, you know what, we can't even run a normal play. And even if you just handed it off, had a draw play from the shotgun, or you tried to throw a wide receiver screen with a quarterback you have no trust in whatsoever, I think all of us would understand that. But when you line up in that formation, the quarterback kill formation, like you're at the end of the game and you're going to kill the game and take a knee, and you run a quarterback sneak, that's overcoaching, that's overthinking, that's basically saying I'm going to manage this game to a kind of somewhat of a medium type score so it doesn't look like we get blown out as bad as we're getting blown out.
Now, did Freddie Kitchens make that call and Joe Judge could have said don't do it? Or did Joe Judge say...
That supersedes, that's the head coach's call. There's no way that the head coach is not involved in that decision. No way. There's no... Unless...
Well, at least he hears the play call. Now, I know that much.
Unless they were talking about it during the week and the head coach said, look, if we get into a situation where we're backed up and we got Jake Fromm, and he's terrible. He just can't play at this level. We got to protect him, and we can't put him in a bad spot. If they had that conversation during the week, then I guess Joe Judge could say, that really wasn't my call. But in actuality, it has to be his call. And there's no way that play is being run by an offensive coordinator without the head coach's knowledge and the head coach's affirmative okay.
Well, at the very least, Joe Judge knew what was going to happen and let it happen.
Look, it's such a bad look. And I don't like I told you, I gave you two reasons why I think he did it. One was to manage the game so Fromm doesn't make another boneheaded interception throw and give an easy touchdown to the Washington football team. And the other is also like a little bit of, hey, look at this crap I got to deal with here. I can't even throw a pass on 3rd down in the middle of a game where we legitimately could try to make a 1st down. And who put these players on this roster?
So out of all the teams yesterday that had nothing to play for, that were terrible teams that actually would have benefited from losing the game, you could make the case that the Giants had the worst day out of all those teams. I would say the Carolina Panthers pretty bad, too, by the end of it, even though that game was 10-7 at half, but it got out of control in the fourth quarter. It's 24 points from the Buccaneers in the fourth quarter. But think about all these other teams that just were terrible this year. The Lions ended up winning that football game, even though, Jordan Love played the second half. But they scored 37 points and they won the game and they played their ass off. The Jacksonville Jaguars, is there a better example than that when it was a win-and-in situation for the Colts?
I don't know if it's a better example for the Jaguars or a worst example for the Colts and Carson Wentz.
The Houston Texans, who never gave up in that game and battled the Titans, who, of course, had something on the line with the 1 seed. And then here are the Giants getting shut out for
Miami
3
Dolphins.
quarters. The Miami Dolphins as well. Yeah, of course. And here are the Giants getting shut out for 3 quarters and then, of course, getting on the board in the 4th quarter, but losing 22-7 and never having a shot.
Yeah, well, I don't think they had a shot from the day that they inserted Mike Glennon.
Yeah.
I mean, so I also want to be realistic about the incredible amount of injuries that the Giants have suffered this year.
And by the way, the
Incredible.
Jets, too, who stayed in that game and played tough.
Yeah, but they got their asses kicked.
Well, I mean, they
offensively.
gave up 14 points in the 4th quarter, but they were still right there.
I know, but I was like, at the end of the game, when the game is out of reach with about 3.5 minutes to go, and the Jets are still throwing, I said, "Are you trying to get your quarterback hurt?"
Yeah.
I mean, you see how many hits he took yesterday? He dropped back 20 times. He got sacked, 8 or 9 times? And how many other times did he get hit?
Came out of it okay, though. So
Thank goodness.
That's all that
Thank
matters.
goodness.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's I don't know what the Giants are going to do right now. I do believe that around Christmas time they felt like, okay, we'll bring Judge and we'll bring Daniel Jones back, and I still believe, and I told you about 6 weeks ago that I felt like Dave Gettleman would retire. His contract is up in June.
Mm-hmm.
Could he force the Giants to fire him right now to make it look a certain way? I mean, I think the Giants have been good to Dave Gettleman. They've allowed him a job. They picked him up after he got let go from Carolina. They brought him in-house. They let him basically sign the free agency he wanted to sign, trade the guys he wanted to trade, bring in the guys that he wanted to draft, and they gave him completely carte blanche over there. And he knew the way that the Giants run their organization. So he should do himself and the Giants a solid and just retire. Just retire. Just go away until next June. You're going to get paid. You're going to have a nice severance package or a retirement package, and just go on. And don't force the Giants to fire you. Like, there's no reason to even do that. Just resign and do it with a touch of class, if you will.
Yeah, and he's of that age, too, where people believe that he's done in the NFL, and that's that.
And I know I'm not saying it's easy for him to go through any of this stuff. I know that. I'm just like, take the pressure off, man. The pressure's been building now for about 8 weeks, and it's at a pressure cooker level. John Mara's got to make so many other decisions as to the way he's going to go, whether it's going to be with the coach and a GM combination, or whether it's going to be keep the coach and try to get a GM in here that can work with the coach. I mean, it's just a weird spot. And every time you go to fire somebody, you start over again. It's almost impossible to bring in a new coach. Look at even Brandon Staley. So Brandon Staley's the new coach for the Chargers. They didn't like the way Anthony Lynn, would manage the clock and manage games, and they lost a lot of games they felt like they should have won. You could probably say the same thing for Brandon Staley last night. They should be in the playoffs. But, he found out, even with a great quarterback, that a lot of the decisions that you make on that sideline have an incredible impact in the game. And, they're not going to the playoffs. And it's disappointing because they have one of the best players at the most important position in the league, in quarterback. Joe Judge, on the other hand, can argue, if he wanted to argue it. He's not going to do it publicly. I'll do a little bit of it for him. But the amount of injuries that they have had, especially on offense, is ridiculous. Losing 2 starting offensive linemen within, I think, the first 2 weeks of the season. Losing your quarterback for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Not having a healthy wide receiver core all year long. And then when they are healthy, it looks like they're not even going 100% in the case of Kenny Golladay yesterday. Maybe a couple business decisions.
Oh, of course. Without a doubt.
So, Saquon Barkley coming off that knee injury and then getting hurt again and then having to come back from that. I mean, there are a lot of obvious reasons as to why their offense is horrendous. Firing an offensive coordinator, by the way, that he didn't want to hire in the first place.
That's, I think, a big problem. Even though he ended up playing with Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm for most of the time after Freddie Kitchens was named the offensive coordinator, the fact that the offense has done zilch since Freddie Kitchens has been the offensive coordinator, that was a Joe Judge call, and John Mara wanted Jason Garrett there. That's another thing that makes me think about what's going to happen. I'm going to read you this Jay Glazer tweet from 11 p.m. last night. He says, I believe the Giants brass is torn on what to do with Joe Judge because of a revolving door of coaches they've had in recent years. Have hesitation to move on because they'd add to that revolving door. At the same time, I've heard a ton of frustration inside that locker room, not a little, a lot.
Yeah, well, there's also guys that are supporting Joe Judge publicly. I don't want to forget that either. From Saquon Barkley to Logan Ryan and others that have supported what Joe Judge is trying to do here. But I know the fans don't give a crap about that. They don't care about the locker room, the culture, the this, the that, and all this other crap. I mean, maybe the owners do, and maybe the owners see it differently than the fans do because they're seeing it internally and how it's supposedly being done. But I just think that the fan base is, and I think it's really a day that the fans should be able to get whatever they have on their chest off of their chest and let it rip. I mean, my thing is I can argue for Joe Judge and say, look, man. Let's be real. Let's look at all the injuries that they suffered and be realistic about what's going on. Denver fired Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're just like the Giants. They're stuck like, who is our quarterback? Is it Teddy Bridgewater? Is it Drew Lock? You're not going to win with those guys, especially when you got Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, and Patrick Mahomes in your division. You're just not going to win. And the Giants aren't going to win as long as Daniel Jones can't stay healthy. I mean, if he is supposedly your quarterback of the future, you can't win if he's not playing. And I think that really showed itself here the last 5 weeks. I don't care who the offensive coordinator is. It could be Miles Davis with the run and shoot. It wouldn't have worked with these quarterbacks in this situation here. Yeah, so I'm like, fans can get mad all they want. They get mad at Dave Gettleman because he was so brash and he was so in your face about who he was drafting, especially the gold jacket guy, Saquon Barkley, and all this other stuff. He's done some good things. He's done some bad things. But I think that's the one spot right now that has to be attended to. And if I were Dave Gettleman, I would just resign and just do it out of the appreciation for the Mara family and the Tisch family and for the longevity that you had in the NFL. And then maybe if you want to go and work with somebody else as a consultant or assistant, whatever, there's other opportunities for him out there. There's no question.
I mean, the Giants are only going to hold on to Joe Judge because they don't want to add to the revolving door of coaches. I mean, that's not a good enough reason. You don't hang on to a coach that you don't think is the right guy just because you maybe think he could magically turn into the right guy after a third year. I mean, he's basically going to be a lame duck going into next year anyway.
Oh, there's no question about that.
I don't know. I know that it's 2 years fire a coach, 2 years fire a coach, 2 years fire a coach. I know that doesn't look good, but if you believe that maybe Joe Judge isn't the right guy, then you can't just keep him around because the other two guys that you hired before Joe Judge weren't any good either.
If he doesn't do the 11-minute, stand-up last week.
Yeah.
I think for whatever reason, that just exacerbated the whole entire thing. It just made it worse, and it felt worse, and it just felt more awkward. And, this is an amazing time of year because, there's a lot of sharks and blood in the water right now as these coaches start to get let go today. And, I do remind people that there are families that are associated with all of this. And, I think of Pat Shurmur, 2 years head coach of the Giants, fired. 2 years or 1 or 2 years head coach of the Denver Broncos, fired.
Well, offensive coordinator.
Offensive coordinator. Yeah. Fired. And, and they got to go on. And basically what it comes down to, it really comes down to who do you have playing quarterback for you, and is that guy good enough to win games when the game is on the line? And I don't think the Giants have an answer for that yet. And the damn coach has got to deal with 22 or 21 guys on IR? So yesterday, Mike Vrabel, he's had 58 different starters this season.
Yeah, I mean, he lost his MVP, too.
He's had 88 different active players during the year. 88. That's an NFL record for active players on a roster. They ended up with the number 1 seed in the AFC.
They also have Ryan Tannehill as their starting quarterback.
But that's why. The quarterback, even though he didn't have, eye-popping numbers, he was there every week and could fight through a game and get at least the offense some points. And then yesterday he throws for 4 touchdown passes in what was his best game of the year. But if you don't have that quarterback, you don't have a chance in this league. Tell me one of these teams that is in the NFL playoffs, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be the thing, because Jalen Hurts is still a question mark in my eyes.
Well, Mac Jones.
He's a rookie, though.
Yeah, but still, he's a guy that you don't think he's just going to carry the team on his back.
It's also the greatest coach in NFL history.
Well, that's true, yeah. But, when you're talking about
maybe the greatest offensive coordinator in NFL history.
Yeah.
I mean, they got it on lockdown. You don't see anybody tweeting up there. You don't see anybody on social media. You don't see anybody, go narcissistic on the team or any of that crap. I mean, he's got that whole thing on lockdown up there.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And we'll see if Mac Jones can take them to the heights that Tom Brady did. It's going to be very, very tough in that AFC.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.